Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I wanted to do a video today on something that relates to what I've been talking about a lot recently, not just in my previous YouTube video, but also on all my socials as well, like LinkedIn, Facebook. I've gone on a lot about working from home and how recruitment and sales professionals can adapt and how they can improve the way they work remotely, but I haven't actually touched on how a manager's coping remotely and how are they adapting to it. And ultimately, if our managers are struggling, then that's going to filter down to the team as well. So today's video is going to be all about how to effectively manage remotely and just some tips around that as well. Just to give you a bit of background, I've worked remotely for the last 7 years and I had about 2 years management experience remotely. I'd never managed before. I was managing somebody that lived in a different country to me. So I live in Wales, they lived in England. We weren't with each other every day and I didn't have any prior training or any prior experience of managing another person. So the tips I'm going to give you are things that I've picked up on where I went wrong, and that on reflection, if I'd have done in a different way, that person might have been more successful as well. So one-to-one chats. This is something that sounds on the face of it very simple and like a logical thing to do, but at the moment it's not happening. And I know this from speaking to my clients. A lot of managers are having group teams or group Zoom sessions once, maybe twice a week, where everyone comes together, they're sharing how they're doing, what's going on, and that'll probably be about it. The problem with that is that some people don't feel comfortable sharing everything in a group chat. When you've got a lot of people in one conversation, it can be hard sometimes to be heard and get a word in edgeways, and you're not then giving that one-to-one attention to any of your team. We always compare ourselves to our colleagues. We want to be the best in the team and keep up with the team. So if we're struggling and we're in a call where we're hearing other people are doing amazingly, it can slightly affect, if not completely affect, our confidence. So group chats have a purpose and they're great for team building, but you can't solely rely on them to manage your team. It's just not going to work. You've got to be having one-to-one chats, and you need to be speaking to your team every day, not just catching up with them maybe once a week or bi-weekly. It takes a quick video or phone call to find out if someone's okay and chat to them. You can't blame the way you manage your team and the lack of contact you have with your team now on the fact that it's the pandemic, we're working from home, because there's ways around it. The beauty at the moment with the fact that we're doing everything so digitally and over video is that we're actually getting a better insight into people's lives, not just our customers, but our colleagues as well. So as a manager prior to the pandemic, the likelihood of you seeing your employees' kitchen or hearing their kids in the background or little things like, look where I am at the moment, I'm in my home office, I've got pictures of my family in the background. You're getting let into these people's lives, and it really does create more of an opportunity to build that rapport and build that relationship. Vice versa, they're getting to see into your life as well. So it's not just relying on an email or a phone call, but maybe sometimes a video call to get that insight into what's going on in their life. If you're noticing in the group chat they're a bit quiet, follow them up with a video call or a phone call and ask them about it. They're a lot more likely to open up to you if you invest that time to do that. You can then spot problems early on and help them. It's more important than ever to understand your team. How can you expect them to understand and relate to you if you don't understand them? If they're stuck at home and something maybe is going wrong in the way they're conducting a Zoom call with a client, and you're not taking the time to understand that, and you're only focusing on the fact that their results are affected, you're not actually dealing with the issue, and they're not then feeling like they're getting the support. You can get your team to record their calls. You can then have a one-to-one meeting with them where you watch it together. You maybe talk about what they learned from that, what they could maybe do differently. It's utilizing this time while we can to invest in the relationships you've got in your team, because when the world goes back to normal, if it fully goes back to normal and you do fully go back to remote working or field working, the relationships will be strengthened, ready for that. One of the things that a lot of managers do is just problem solve. Because people don't understand the coaching approach, they think they're coaching when, say, one of their team comes to them with a problem and they give them an answer and they help them. That isn't a coaching approach. The answer you're giving them is based on your experience and what's worked for you. It may not work for that other person. If they do that thing and it doesn't work, who are they going to blame? You're the one that's given them the answer. They can use it as an excuse why something hasn't worked. If you are seen as that problem solver, that person or your whole team know if they come across any little challenges, to just come to you, they can get an answer, job done. But what are they going to learn from that? All they've thought is, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know the answer, so I'll just ring my manager. They haven't even given themselves the time to think properly of the answer themselves. 9 times out of 10, they know that answer. Remember that your team, they're on the front line. They're the ones who are the recruitment consultants and the sales reps that are out there doing the frontline work. You are not that person. They actually might have, and it's hard to admit it, a better answer than you. Instead of just giving them the answer, ask them questions. It could be something as simple as, before I give you my advice or before I give you my insight and opinion, how do you think you should approach that? What do you think would be the best way to contact that customer? Because the likelihood is that before they've picked that phone up or before they've dialed you on a Zoom call, they haven't asked themselves that question. It's about being a leader and helping your team get through their challenges and problems, but by learning at the same time and growing. I know a lot of managers will say, I'm so busy, I haven't got time to do that. Ultimately, if you've got time to give an answer, you've got time to ask a question. How long does it take to ask one question? Not that long. And a couple of questions may get them straight to the answer over you spending ages explaining something that might not even go in the first time. You might have to have another call back with them. Don't be a problem solver. Be a leader that encourages them to solve their own problems. We all can think of times when we've worked something out for ourselves or we've gone through a massive learning process and got through a challenge ourselves. It's so much more empowering, so much more empowering. If we're trying to create successful, high-performing sales and recruitment teams, we want our employees to feel empowered and confident. Also, if you're always just giving them answers and not encouraging them to think for themselves, in the back of their mind, they are going to start thinking that you don't trust them. You don't trust them to think for themselves. And when we're all based at home and working remotely, the trust part is really important, because if they don't feel you trust them, they're not going to work independently and their confidence is going to drop. It's just not going to create a successful working environment. It takes a coaching approach. And if you can implement this now when we're working purely remotely, it will not only encourage and help your team to be independent now, which is going to save you time and create more success in the team, but when things start going back to normal, they've had all these positive behaviours and new habits implemented that they can carry into their everyday work life moving forward. This also comes into play when your team are sharing successes with you, because again, when we're remote, it might be you get a phone call or again a Zoom call or even an email saying, oh, I've just won X client, or I've just placed X candidate in so-and-so company. Fantastic. We want to celebrate those successes. But what we can often do sometimes as a manager is we're so results driven. It can be, okay, so how far are you off hitting your target now? What other KPIs have you got to hit? And it's all that results driven conversation. There's a place for that and that's important. But how about exploring what they've gained from that experience and what they've learned? It's congratulating them, but it's getting them on a phone call or a Zoom meeting to find out, how did you do that? How did you bring on that customer? You've been trying to bring them on for ages. What worked for you? What have you learned from that experience? What are you going to take from this experience into your further calls with new clients? It's really about, again, focusing on the learning around it and making them feel like they've got something out of the experiences they're having. But don't think I can emphasize enough that this time is crucial for managers to be leading their teams effectively and doing it in a way that's going to make them more successful. What I've talked about in this video mainly centers around bringing coaching methodologies into your management style. I know I've touched on the fact that these things can help you manage remotely, but these are also things that you can do when you get back into the office as well. The open questions and the coaching chats that you can have with your team. If you would like a chat about how to coach more as a manager, please feel free to get in touch with me. My LinkedIn and other contact details are in the comments box of this video. It might also be worth you referring to the video I posted last month, tips around working from home. It's a free video here on my YouTube channel, and it might be helpful for your team to watch and listen to give them some tips around effective working practices from home. I hope you've all enjoyed, and I will see you all soon.